Good morning, this is Melody Evaluation. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Beat Happening, which is a band from the 80s. It's an American indie band. We're going to make an album review about that. First, I would like to introduce Stephen, because Stephen Mynott is here with me. And I asked you to listen this album, and as a musician, because you are a musician, just tell your opinion. What do you think about this album?
Well, thank you very much for asking me, because I don't know, I'd vaguely heard of a band called Beat Happening. I didn't really know anything about them. I couldn't tell you where they were from, or I really liked it. It seems to have come very much from its time. I think it was, from what I can see on there, it was recorded in 1985, mid-80s. So it's got that indie pop. It raises lots and lots of interesting questions. Anybody who's heard it will know that, how to put this politely, the level of musicianship, accomplishment, technical ability is quite low, right? But I really like that. And I like it for a number of deeper philosophical reasons. But first of all, it's just quite startling. We're so used to things being recorded to within an inch of their life, everything being judged on what is the best, however you define that. This must be better. It must be better than everybody else's. And this is not like that. Even their count-ins sound wrong. Even there's one. He sings the song I Love You. It's very interesting. But the opening guitar riff they play, and I think the second time round, whoever it is who's playing that, I mean, they almost miss every single note. So instead of hearing the line, you hear clunk, 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 clunk. Now, in most modern day, or even then, recordings, they would have probably said, that's not good enough, start again. Right, do it again. But this is part of what it seems this band is doing, and I'm going to say that advisedly, because I think there's something that comes after that. There's no pretense. We are singing these songs, we play these instruments very well, but we're going to go for it, and there's something to it. And I think that's all true. That's great.
It was very interesting what you said about how they play.
They are not playing very well in conventional sense. But then the question is, what is playing well? What is music for? Okay, on the one hand, there is this idea that they just can't play, and they don't know how to play, but they're really enjoying themselves, and they actually can play well in a sense of they are writing a song and it's interesting. But and I think that goes to the heart of a problem, which is, what is music or any art there for? Surely it's there to connect human beings in all the different ways that it is. The fact that we are speaking like this over a Zoom call, because at the moment there's a lockdown where we are in the UK, that shows that human beings need a connection. We need some kind of connection, because lockdown does not feel very good to us. So we want that connection, and that's what art provides and music provides. But I think there is something that goes further, which is, with this band, almost that becomes a badge of honor. They show this as something that is really something that is very, very positive in and of itself. And I think, in a sense, that's an artifice as well. So you make a point of not playing very well. So it's not just this free and easy, this is how it happens. That the free and easy thing becomes part of your rules as well. It's a strange thing. And so as I'm sitting listening to the record, there's a number of things I really, really enjoy. One is actually their lyrics. They're quite funny. They're quite melancholy. They're very, very, almost sad in some places. But as I'm looking on the internet, it says these people were basically in their early 20s when they were doing this. They're not teenagers. This isn't 14, 15-year-olds doing this. This is 22, 23, 24-year-olds. That's a bit different. Therefore, it suggests there is an artifice to not being artificial. Then, speaking as somebody who is not, in their teens and not in their 20s anymore, who's a lot older, that still does connect with you. That kind of, like, I can't think of a word which is better descriptive, the melancholy, a kind of strangeness. I mean, the song, again, I Love You, which I think is probably the best song on there, because it seems to have all of these things going on. The very bad playing. I mean, there's some drum fills that are just woeful, but they somehow work in the context of the song. And his lyrics, which again are not particularly original. I think there were other people at that time and before who were writing lyrics that are both, they seem to hark back to a kind of 60s beach party, American lifestyle, a kind of Beach Boys thing. Hey, we're all going to the beach, we're all teenagers, we're all having fun, but unfortunately there's a body under the patio. It's this kind of strange thing that's going on all the while. Yes, we're all teenagers in love and we all like this, but then we'll talk about the Pope or the KGB or something, you know, Russian secret police. It reminded me of two things. One was, it, in a strange way, reminds me of the Velvet Underground, although not as good, not as all-encompassing as the Velvet Underground, but also a more particular band nearer to their time and when they were playing, which is the B-52s.
Oh yeah, I made the note when I listened to your bands down. One of them was B-52, the other one was Devo and the Joy Division.
I think of them as like B-52s without the technical ability. And that says a lot, because the B-52s did not have a lot of technical ability, but Beat Happening have even less. But then for me, as a musician, and have spent a lot of my time trying to get this technical ability, whatever it is, you realize that's a bit of a quicksand. That's a bit of a dead end. Because what they are able to do is able to make a musical connection with you via not really having any technique. And it really doesn't matter. And because we live in a society where everything is supposed to be so perfect and supposed to be auto-tuned, right, and I really like that. And that's why when I listened to the album, I listened to it and then I listened to it again, because I felt that I was getting something from it which was really unusual and I really liked. And it was quite funny and it was quite sad and melancholy, as I said. And they were also playing into a history of pop music, I think, which is interesting. There is a lot of a kind of element of the Beach Boys in there. And the weirdness of the Beach Boys are incredibly technically accomplished in terms of pop music and you know, pet sounds and all of those things. They're so multi-layered. These are completely the other end. But still there's this element of almost a yearning for a lost youth, even though they're singing like they are the youth still. And all of those things I find very intriguing and interesting.
They are from Olympia and
not Greece.
Sorry, not
Olympia in Greece.
The Olympia from Washington, and I find this place very interesting. We see the movie about the sun. It's a documentary based on a book what Michael Azerrad wrote, and they made a documentary. It's about, again, Kurt Cobain. With lots of interview with him and with beautiful pictures. And there is a part about Olympia. As I remember, it was a huge music community in there. So they just randomly went out of the street and they just played because they like it, and it was no further aim or anything into it. They just played. I really like this album, Beat Happening, and I like that fact they are not professional, as you said. They don't sound perfect. I can connect it to that. I can imagine myself to totally fit in that that we're not playing that well, but we like to play idea.
The perfection is actually within the imperfection. The fact that they can't play this thing. I mean, how many times could they get those things wrong in the same way again? It's almost, you can't. You're hearing that exact moment that they recorded that particular thing. And it did make me think of a funny idea, which was, would you have a tribute band to Beat Happening? And
No.
if you did, and if you did have a tribute band, would everybody have to get everything wrong in exactly the same way that they got it wrong on the record? Everybody is so obsessed with every little minutiae, and of course that in and of itself, a tribute to Beat Happening would mean that you couldn't be a tribute to them. These contradictions are going on all the while, and I find that the most interesting thing. Although I would say that some of the songwriting isn't just, which some indie bands, especially at that time, could be, with a repetitive 2-chord loop that goes round and round. Nearly all their songs start like that and have some strange ramshackled groove to it, and then they go to another section of the song, and then they go back, and that suggests a pop sensibility about how you write a song, which again goes back to the 60s and before. And I think that underneath the surface of all of these things, there's more going on.
Watch some interviews with Kevin Joseph, because he knows an awful lot about music. In the punk scene, they didn't accept that well then, because they were not punk as punk should be.
Again, punk takes on its own rules that you then get locked into. But even that which you're saying is, do they know what they're doing, or don't they know what they're doing? Are they completely naive idiots who can't play, or are they actually very well-knowing, very accomplished kind of theoreticians that are carrying out this experiment? You know, when you're listening to it, and I think it's probably all of the above, all of that in one way or another. You know, when he's singing out a tune on what, I can't remember which song it is, he's singing out a tune, he really is out of tune. It's very hard to sing that out of tune. And then he gets into tune in the next bit of the song because it probably suits his voice a bit better. But again, that becomes part of something that I like. It creates a feeling in me, a tension that makes me want to hear it again, rather than, oh, it's all perfect and we all know where it's going and it's boring. There's so much of that around. And this is now, 35 years old? And you could create comparisons with other forms of music as well, and other bands at that time, I think, were doing a similar thing, not quite in the same way, but similar. And it does make me now think, because I haven't heard anything else by them apart from this album, how does the story continue? I know that they did 2 or 3 other albums. What happens next? Do you continue the same idea, or does it develop? Which is what most good bands do, will change and move along and break the rules. And their rules are, rules in inverted commas, they're part of their charm is they can't play. What happens when they do learn to play? Do they lose their charm? When they get better, they actually get worse? Well, you know, I find that intriguing. So I'll probably after this go off and listen to the next couple of albums and see what happens next.
Would you recommend this album to the people to listen?
It depends who they were. There are some people I know, if I recommended it to, they'd hate it. They wouldn't get it. From the first minute, they would not get it. They would say, what is this? This is rubbish. Why are you doing this? Somebody who's interested in the music you like, why do you like this? And in a sense, it's a bit fruitless trying to convince them. But anybody who is open to lots of types of music and is not, and more importantly, is not bound up in how you have to make music. The process of making music can only be one way. This is nonsense. If I want to, cough over the sound of slicing some bread and I want that to be my music, well, that's my music. That's the way it is. If I want it to be a 40-piece orchestra with a couple of dogs barking, well, that's my music. That's what I want. You know, there is no rules to this. There is no rules to those things. And if people leave that baggage at the door and try to get into the deeper part, yes, I would recommend it to them.
As you said earlier, if it's you can connect it to it, even it's not perfect, even if they're not playing well, and I would say they are more authentic because of that. I really want to play Betsy. It's perfectly fit with me, so I would play that song. I really recommend this album for everybody, as I said, who opens for weird music. Thank you to participate, Stephen, and thank you to tell your opinion about the album. And see you next time then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.